CABALISTS plot anti-Trump counterattack in Tokyo. The Japanese Khazarian mafia-slave government, desperately to survive, is plotting the removal of U.S. troops from Japan, as well as the end of the regime of U.S. President Donald Trump, according to Japanese right-wing sources close to the empire. That is why former U.S. President Barack Obama and former Thai Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra were here last week, the sources say. The Japanese regime is working with the Khazarian mafia slave regimes of Theresa May in the UK, Emmanuel Macron of France, and Angela Merkel of Germany in the effort against the Trump regime, the sources say. The French branch of the Rothschild family is deeply involved in these moves, CIA sources in Asia confirm. The Japanese regime has joined these anti-Trump efforts because it has become alarmed by a series of recent public rebuke by the Trump military government. The biggest is that Japan is being kept totally out of the loop about moves towards peace in the Korean Peninsula. Japan's government is also upset that, unlike other U.S. allies, it has been given exemptions to U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum, the sources say. That is why the Japanese government is making unprecedented, for a usually civil, bootlicking regime, public rebooks of the U.S. moves. The Abe government has been actively preparing for war, with China using North Korea as a pretext, and was totally surprised by the move toward peace, the sources explain. While the war-maturing Abe regime trembles, U.S., Chinese, and Russian President Donald Trump, Xi Jinping, and Vladimir Putin may win the Nobel Peace Prize for a Korean peace treaty and denuclearizations, Pentagon sources say. By contrast, members of the Abe regime fear being charged with war crimes over their involvement in the March 11, 2011 tsunami and nuclear terror attack on Japan. This fear has arisen because of the imminent arrest of Satan-worshipping Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who was one of the chief architects of the Fukushima terror operation, they say. This attack was orchestrated by the Rothschild family in the upward attempt to evacuate 40 million Japanese to North Korea, members of the Rothschild family confirmed. The plan was to set up new Rothschild Asian headquarters in North Korea, according to these sources. Now this is all unraveling, and a peace deal in the Korean Peninsula is likely to lead to all of these murderous plans being made public, say the CIA, Pentagon, and Japanese right-wing sources. That is why there is now great fear and loathing amongst the perpetrator of this mass murder, they say. A CIA source in Thailand said Thaksin Shinawatra was called to Tokyo because Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is looking for a place to find refuge. Dubai is at the top of his list. Once the Japanese people know that he has done to them, he will have to run in order to avoid being taken out. His time is almost up. The source explained that Shinawatra is exiled in Dubai, and thus Abe was hoping his connection with the government there would get him shelter as well. Also, last week, a member of the NSA personally visited this writer to warn him they had intercepted communications showing Japanese Finance Minister Taro Aso is actively trying to have me murdered. Also, is upset at being exposed as the top Rothschild agent in Japan, the NSA official explained. Also is angry at his regime construction of biological warfare factory disguised as a veterinary school has been exposed by this writer, he said. The other fatal error made by the Abe regime was to sell substandard steel to the U.S. military in a deliberate act of sabotage, Pentagon sources say. This is something the Abe government will pay a high price for, the sources promise. Speaking about steel, a U.S. military intelligence sources sent this writer the following information. The Chinese are reacting to Pentagon claims of substandard steel with great composure. Senior Chinese officials pointed out that this was a known problem in 2015 and wiped out in 2017. The Chinese leadership recognizing that their reputation for quality was a priceless national asset. Interestingly, in the same conversation, it was mentioned that China keep many samples of the waste of 11 September and test for nuclear, thermite, and energy radiation, among other relevant forensic factors. If and when President Donald Trump is ready to support an independent investigation of 11 September, the Chinese appear to have relevant evidence quality information to share. This is highly relevant now, because last week a U.S. judge rejected a Saudi Arabian government attempt to dismiss a lawsuit against it concerning the 11 September attacks. Pentagon sources have previously explained that the tactic of suing Saudi Arabia was meant to expose the real perpetrators of these attacks, the Khazarian mafia. The wheels of justice grind slowly, but they grind to dust and are steadily closing on these murderers. On this front, Pentagon sources note the total number of civil indictments against the Khazarian satanic mafiosi is approaching to 25,000, and those rejected by Gitmo may be found dead like Peter Monk. Peter Monk was a Canadian mining magnate whose company, Barrick Gold, was used to move a very large quantity of volatile AU. That was the main purpose of the company, according to CIA sources in the Asia. Monk has been charged in a Nevada court with criminal involvement in the 11 September attacks, which involved laundering stolen gold. Other people charged were Richard Cheney, John Brennan, John Ashcroft, Robert Mueller, George Bush, Kevin Spacey, Barack Obama, Joe McCain, James Baker, Edgar Bronfman, Paul Wolfowitz, Richard Powell, Condoleezza Rice, George Soros, John Kerry, Vanda Bint Sultan, David Rockefeller, Brent Snowcroft, Zinjinu Brzezinski, and Hilary Rodham Clinton. The other huge move against the Khazarian mafia is the ongoing attack on their internet mind control apparatus. After the Facebook scandal, Google, Twitter, Amazon, Tesla, and Microsoft are also being targeted. Pentagon sources say, as a collective, this group of companies is a visible part of what the Nazi Illuminati calls for a large artificial intelligence that is threatening humanity. Transforming these companies from brain-brushing hubs into public utilities is a must if humanity is to be freed. Speaking about large AIs, today we reluctantly have to say that a growing body of evidence shows that Neil Keenan, who played a key role in exposing the cable's hijacking of financial system, has been murdered, and his murderers have hijacked his identity for the past several years. Neil Keenan was briefly reported to have been murdered on his own website before that report was taken down. Following this, his reporter had a Skype conversation with a person claiming to be Neil Keenan but who failed to answer questions the real man would have known, such as where did I once send him money? Also, Keenan suddenly stopped exposing cable machinations and instead became a salesman for hailing computers. CIA sources pointed out that around the end of November 2014, Keenan posted server videos of his opening one of the bunkers here in Indonesia at undisclosed location. The small box that Keenan and his assistant eventually opened contained copper ingots. They were not gold. Gold does not tarnish or become oxidized. Copper does. This was a falsehood from the onset. The source says he checked with Indonesian immigration and they have no records of Keenan visiting the country at that time. Keenan also talks about an attempt of $15 quadrillion hacked from the Dragon family. Here's an excerpt from his blog posting on June 7, 2014. Most recently, the Vatican, in collaboration with an untrusted elder, the Sultan of Sulu, a guardian holder of the Dragon family global account access, attempt to steal $15 quadrillion from the Dragon family. Their attempt was thwarted. This was pure fantasy on Keenan's part, the sources say. We have also confirmed with the government of Monaco that there was never any meetings of the world finance ministers in Monaco and that no such agreement as the Monaco Accords, widely reported by Keenan, ever existed. The last person who we can confirm actually met with Neil Keenan met him more than 10 years ago. Since then, despite considerable efforts on our part, contacting various intelligence agencies around the world, nobody can confirm he's still alive. Repeatedly attempts to arrange a meeting with Keenan have also failed. We would be happy to prove him wrong. This is important because if we can trace down and capture the people who killed and then began impersonating Keenan, then we have a real chance at ending Khazarian Cable Financial's control. Also, on this front, we can report that a meeting took place last week between a representative of an Asian elder and the White Dragon Society. The White Dragon Society proposed to this representative that the Asian elders appoint a director to the White Dragon Foundation with veto power over any use of funds by the foundation. After this, historical bonds can be disposed of with the foundation, and the White Dragon Society will use its influence to make sure the Khazarian mafiosi who sold these bonds in exchange for gold are forced to pay up. The money will be used to end poverty, stop environmental destructions, and finance the sorts to Plowshare's transformation of a military-industrial complex. In any case, Pentagon sources report that mopping up operations are in progress, with more cable bays destroyed and portals shut down. We cannot personally confirm spy war information of the sort. However, we can confirm that removing visible cable leaders like Benjamin Netanyahu is important. Also, Russian FSB sources say they have traced the root of the problem on Earth to Zurich, Switzerland, and that it is somehow connected to the CERN project.